Do you think aging sucks? Or do we just suck at aging? Hello and welcome to Your Second Prime, the podcast dedicated to disrupting our current views about getting older. Join me, Gretchen Leonard. I'm a dietitian and a wellness expert. I am passionate about the intricate relationship between our mindset, our microbiome, and neuroscience, and how we can harness the power of our inconvenient dreams to age more successfully. Let's start a revolution and embrace enlightened aging. And no, aging doesn't have to suck. So Netta Jones,
Hi.
how are you?
For having me, Gretchen. I appreciate it.
This has been in the works for quite a while.
Yep.
I am so honored to have you here in our little home studio. And
Beautiful home studio, by
thank
the way.
you.
Everybody could see this. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And you are the founder and CEO of Liberty Road,
Yeah.
and you do amazing things. This
you.
group you've put together, you started in 2023, and you've taken off like a rocket. You've done so much. You're doing events, curated boxes, and I didn't want to know about it because I
Yeah.
want to be
We'll tell you more.
podcasts, and really helping people reshape how they feel in their middle third.
Yes. What you
So
call second prime. We have
yes,
two different terms for the
yes,
same thing.
yes, but really that sweet spot
Yeah.
for women.
Yeah.
I wish I had known this was a sweet spot, but I think the work that we're doing collectively really is
Yeah.
a message to every woman, every person out there that after the ego and acquisition phase, the purpose phase comes, and it's glorious. And we also need each other to support each other through that phase,
Yeah.
especially if it hasn't been forged. But you, with Liberty Road,
Yeah.
first of all, the word liberty, very, very important. And road meaning so much to discover. Tell us, give a little bio and tell us all about your work.
Well, let me talk about the name for a second because it was very intentional. So I was a consultant, as you know, a small business consultant for female founders before I launched Liberty Road. And I had a podcast, and it was kind of this side gig because I wanted to have conversations with all the amazing women that I got to meet and share them with other people because we learn from other people's stories, right? And it was Liberty for Her. And the idea was women were liberating themselves through these ventures. These, in the case of the clients I was talking to back then, it was these entrepreneurial ventures that we weren't waiting to be liberated. We were doing it ourselves through our work, learning more about
Not
ourselves.
waiting to be chosen, but to choose yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well said. When I shifted to focus on the middle third demographic, which we call 40s, 50s, and 60s, what I constantly heard in the interviews with women and in talking to clients are things like, it's been a windy path. It hasn't been a straight road. There's been so many forks in the road. This idea of road kept coming up. And the name was this idea of not just liberation, but that it's a journey, that it's everything you take from who you were and what you've learned and where you're headed. That it's not just the destination that we're trying to get to, it's this accumulation. In fact, I wanted to stay away very specifically from the word reinvention because I was like, we don't need to reinvent. And this is semantics a bit here.
But words matter.
Words matter. And I wanted
matter.
people to take everything, take it all with you. This is a part of who you are and what you're becoming. You don't have to necessarily full stop and rethink what is my new life going to look like. That's a lot. That's a heavy burden. And
Well, and I don't know that one can actually do
yeah,
that.
I would agree. I would agree.
I mean, I think maybe there is this idea that you want to reframe something, but to really give up your history, and I think is probably impossible.
And it's probably what you need to inform your future.
Mhm.
The gifting of what you've learned can be taken into who you're going to become and who you're going to serve.
I completely agree. I
Yeah.
think we could be here all day. I know you
Just
have
talking
like
about
just
that.
talking about that. I know you're supposed to go to the Bahamas tomorrow, so I do have to let you go at some point.
Eventually.
Celebrating your mom's
Yes.
80th, which is
Yeah.
fabulous.
Such a gift. Yeah.
Okay, so in your Second Prime podcast, I always ask this
Yeah.
icebreaker, And it is, what have you learned most recently
Mm.
that your future self will thank you for? And I'll share after you.
Oh, wow. Such a good question. Um, I think I am learning. I don't know if I've learned fully, but I am learning to go ahead and step into the power that I don't yet have, to be to own the power that I will have as a result. So that could be meetings with people that I'm like, I have no business taking this meeting. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we're just a small little company, or, if only they knew what we're,
Right.
scaffolding over
Yes.
here to make
Yes.
this happen. That there's a lot of duct tape. But I step into those meetings and I find that, oh, I do belong here.
Mm-hmm.
I I am supposed to be bringing this to them. There is something I can help them to do, or they can help us to do. And so it hasn't come from a place of, oh, we absolutely belong in this space. It can be a meeting with somebody who's like a high flying brand. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
why am I asking them to participate with us? They don't
Mm-hmm.
know who we are. Inevitably, I'm finding that when I do those things and when I take those risks, that I do feel a real sense of belonging. I belong there. I belong at that table, and they actually belong with us. They
Mm-hmm.
actually um, are going to benefit from whatever this is. So I'm prematurely stepping into a power I don't think I have, only to find out that in fact I have it.
Well, what's cool about what you said, what I like is you probably do know,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
something you learned a long time ago maybe informed that imposter syndrome that we often
Yeah.
all, partake in every now and then. And what I've found at the people that are, I've had the pleasure of working with the Nobel Women's Initiative,
Yeah.
where these women have won the Nobel Peace Prize. And there's a particular woman, her name is Tawakal Carmen, and she won the Nobel Prize when she was 32. She's a mother of three. She was the start of the Arab Spring.
Mm.
She like slept in a tent in her country in Yemen, and I I did a project with her, and it was about neuroresilience. And I thought, at what point I had to ask her this, did you think this was a good idea?
Yeah.
Like, what?
Please do tell.
So
Yeah.
I'm a mom, I'm a young woman, I'm in a very, very conservative, oppressed regime.
Yeah.
There are more guns than there are humans in Yemen. How did you reconcile the data,
Yeah.
the information, and say, I have the power to be at the table, or I have this? And she was like, because not would be so against
Mm.
my purpose.
Hmm.
And since purpose is our talk today, and I remember thinking, yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
I get that. And so she was just called to do something quite great. Now, she's extraordinary, and
Yeah.
and when she walks in the room, everyone can feel it. So she
Yeah.
certainly was the right person at the right time to do something like that.
Yeah.
But what she has brought to the table is that everyone has that when it's the right topic.
Yeah.
Everyone has that, does the strength to be at the table, and the credibility to be at the table when it's something you love, and you believe.
Yes, and she's a great example too of what we were just talking about, in that she brought her history along with her to make a difference for the future she was building for herself, for her family, for the other women in her country. And I think we can hear those stories and feel like they're distant. Those are for a few privileged people, but in fact, I feel very certainly and to my core that we all have that. There's a place for
Absolutely.
all of us,
Yep.
which is why we're talking
Yep.
about purpose, but that it's about stepping into that, as you just said, with a certainty that it is for you. You were
Mhm.
intended for this work, whatever it is, however big or small it is.
Mhm.
And if people could embrace that and feel that there was something in their life that was calling them toward that, I believe they would with confidence step into it, even when they're not sure what it is. It's
Yes.
like, I'm going to take that next step.
Yes, and I think, that the work that you're doing is so valuable, and you do it in a very inclusive
Mm.
way. Everyone feels that it's attended one of your events enveloped in an ethos of possibility. So I've been lucky enough to take part in one of your events,
Thank
and
you.
everyone there is very, very supportive. And it's the beautiful thing about women in their middle third is everyone's pulling for you. I
Yes.
think we've the competition that maybe hit us when we were younger is just not there in the
Yeah.
way. So I think that's an exciting component.
I think too, if you're setting a tone, I'm sure you're doing it in the work that you're doing, in what you're doing with the podcast. But if you're setting a tone that there's room for all of us, it takes away whatever competition people feel. Because what we're saying is not, look at X, look at this person, and how can you be like her? What we're saying is, how can you be like you?
Mhm.
And there's room, because we're the only
Yeah.
us. You're the only Gretchen. I can confidently support you. It's not a threat to
Right.
who I am or what I'm doing, because I'm not the beautiful, lovely, wonderful Gretchen. That's her history, her future, her knowledge, her experience. And when we can feel that, when we create space for women to feel that, there is no threat. There's
I
only
There's
discovery
only
who you
discovery.
are.
And also, I think, and I appreciate you saying that. It's so kind of you. I remember when I was a young professional, I used to listen to book on tape.
Yes.
I was in the
Yeah.
Central Valley. I had moved to Fresno, California. I didn't know that it wasn't by the water because it was before
Yeah.
the internet.
Yeah, you're like, California.
California.
My
Uh,
husband, by the way, grew up in Clovis, right
So
outside of
yes,
Fresno.
I
Yeah.
found my husband in Fresno
Oh,
and he's
hilarious.
so lovely.
Yeah.
And I would drive, these long distances to get where I needed to go. And of course, book on tape
Yeah.
and I remember distinctly listening to Marianne Williamson.
Mm,
And I don't remember the name of the book, but I remember her saying, every time you see a woman do something that you like, instead of saying, who does she think she is?
mm.
Say, thank you, me too.
Oh, wow.
And I
How
thought
beautiful.
when I was very young, I've always been really impressed by what people could do and
Mm,
excited. There's the other part is I'm an only child, so I want to be friends with everybody.
yeah.
And so I'm not into competition. I'm like, oh, new friend.
Yeah.
So there's two of those like self identities going, but that permission structure of seeing someone like you do what you're doing and saying, I feel strong walking into that room made me excited about that in my future.
Mhm.
So I think the modeling of what good looks like in this time of our lives is also incredibly powerful. So thank you for
Well, my
modeling
gosh,
good behavior.
thanks. And
Yeah.
we'll try and keep it
Yeah.
up.
Keep it up. Keep it up. So you started 2.5 years, roughly two and a half
Yeah.
years ago.
It'll be
It'll
2 years
be
ago
2
in
years.
June.
Okay. So
Yeah.
how did you get the courage to just say, "Okay, I'm gonna leave consulting,
Yeah.
I'm gonna hire a team, I'm gonna do this work, and I'm gonna go out there." What was your tipping point?
It's interesting. It didn't feel like courage. Actually, the most courageous thing, or the thing that felt like it did take courage, wasn't stepping out to create Liberty Road. It was stepping out to talk about middle age. Because what I had been doing before, I had clients that were millennials, I had clients that were
Mm,
my generation, Gen X, I had boomers, I had I had the ability to toggle back and forth and to connect with people that were younger than me and to feel relevant and to have these moments of like, yeah, I've still got it. I'm cool. And it was like, oh my gosh, are we going to be talking about age all the time? Am I really going to do this? Am I
yeah.
really going to pigeonhole myself? And I had wanted to launch before COVID. COVID happened. We all have our, BC and AC stories. But there was too much going on with too many clients, and it was not a time to leave when many of them were trying to figure out, do I
Mm,
even sustain the work that I'm
sure.
doing? Should I close shop? So I had even more time to think through this age narrative that I wanted to align myself with. What ended up happening was I started to hear more and more and more through COVID,
Mm,
more and more stories of people saying, you know what, I think that the boat has sailed.
Oh,
I think
yes.
I think the technology gap is just too big.
So the limited view was
Yeah,
really,
yeah.
like, pervasive.
Yes, and I
Yeah.
was like, "Whoa, wait a minute. You have more connections than you've ever had.
Mhm.
You are probably the most stabilized, like, emotionally, mentally, maybe financially than
Yeah.
you've ever been. You have a sense of who you are and the work you could step into. Maybe you don't know what you're passionate about yet. That can be a heavy word, but you know your curiosities. This is exactly when you should be
Mhm.
moving forward with whatever that purpose or that calling is, and that gave me more of a clear um idea of the work I wanted to do. So the courage, to get back to your question, was in focusing on this demographic, and once I had worked through what that meant for me personally and letting go of what that meant, or embracing what that meant, then I was all in.
All in.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious, what drew you to midlife as, like, you personally? Yes, you heard the stories, because
Yeah.
I hear stories that I'm like, "Oh, wow, that touches me," but I don't then go
Yeah,
off and
don't
do
make a
something.
business
Yeah,
out
make a
of
business
it.
out of it.
Yeah.
Like,
It's a
"Oh,
good
I
question.
love puppies, but
Yeah.
I'm not gonna breed puppies."
Yeah.
So what was like, were you like, "Nope, I'm in on this one."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll be really brief with this, but years ago, many, many years ago, when I was in college, I felt, and it was almost like a vision, not to get woo woo, but it was kind of woo woo. I
We
had
love
this,
woo-woo
we
here.
love woo woo. So I had this moment of, I think I was a junior in college trying to figure out what was next. I don't know if I had just watched Out of Africa with Meryl Streep or
Mm.
what. I don't
So
know what
beautiful.
exactly had
Yes.
happened. And I was
You
very,
dressed all in khaki.
yes, I just,
Just
I was
all in
like,
khaki.
I know what the vision
I
is.
am
Yes,
going to have
yes.
a lion and dress in
Yes.
khaki.
Oh,
Yeah.
I used to say I might not have a farm in Africa, but um, there was something about um, a few things that had come together in my life, including some work I was doing as a college student where I was concerned about, this is like We Are the World and all the like aid for Africa that I was coming up in that time and really felt connected
Mhm.
to, I think I want to help the women of those countries in some way. And it was this very clear, like, moment, this like vision. And I had no connection to it. I didn't know anybody who was doing this kind of work. I didn't know exactly what it meant. And here I was, a marketing student living in New York City. Like, it was, couldn't be further away from what I was doing.
Was the internet?
No,
Was before the
no,
internet. You could have
dear,
ended up in
dear one.
prison.
Thank you for asking if the internet was there.
I
No, not
see,
yet.
this is how we
Not yet.
think
In
of how
fact,
hard things were,
yes,
so
yes.
hard. I just want everyone to know it was
Yes. The
really hard.
first my first email didn't come out until I had graduated
Yeah.
college, and then I had an email.
Just the research
Yes.
alone.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I had this real sense of call to
Mm.
that work. Okay, so just put a pin in that.
Okay.
I'm getting to your question. So why did I think that, okay, midlife, I'm going to make a career out of it? I also had just spent 20 years consulting. I had had a business years ago in New York working with emerging designers, all female. I had learned a lot about what it took to sustain those businesses. That translated into me becoming a consultant. So the stories of women, supporting women, empowering women, all became something that I became passionate about. So I didn't know that I was passionate about that. And I say that very specifically so your listener can hear that our passions are things that are developed. They're not necessarily things that we're like, yes, I've always been passionate about X, Y, or Z. Some of us are lucky enough to know
Some.
what that is. Most of us are not.
Oh, I couldn't be more happy that you just handed
Mm,
that over, because while I was thinking about our interview, I was thinking there are these fallacies in sort of adult womanhood or even finding your purpose that a light bulb, no, sometimes light bulbs come on,
yeah.
but that it's actually the work that takes you there.
Yeah.
And then you discover it through doing
Yes.
all these different things. So
Yes.
when people are like, "Oh, I don't know where to start, I don't know what to do," do something.
Yeah.
Just
Just
anything.
yeah,
Just start
start
and let
anything.
it be
Yeah,
messy and let it be
yeah,
not work out and then let it lead you somewhere else to on another road and
yeah,
find and let that be a winding path. And the more windy, the more interesting. And I wish I had not read so many articles in magazines when I was younger saying, sort of coming up with formulaic. Oh, she did this. A few things that I think
yeah,
are really funny about how people are described when they find their purpose.
yeah.
They always knew,
Yes.
they were unwavering, they never faltered. All of this like ethos is BS,
Yeah.
not true.
Because if you hear that, then you think, "Oh, I don't have it, so I guess
So
that what's on the
I'm
other
not
end
on
of
that.
purpose is not for me."
I
Right?
I'm not in that lucky
Yes.
gene pool that
Yeah.
knows or that
Yes.
that
Or had the opportunity or the
yes.
privilege to lean into whatever that purpose or that
Yes.
calling was. That's not for everybody. And
Yes.
if that's the narrative or the storyline that we're telling, we're trying to hook people onto, then it's only for a very few, and that's not what we're trying to do.
That is, I mean, there's so
Yeah.
much. There's enough
Yeah.
light for everyone. And in
Yes.
fact, the world needs us all to light up
Yes.
because we need people that are living in their light. That's
Amen.
amen to
Yeah.
that, right?
And I want to say I eventually did get to Africa and
Tell
took
me.
as a
Did you wear
consultant.
tan? Did you wear
I
tan?
did every day. I had a cool hat. I had cool glasses. I
I
did
would
my
love to
best,
see the
Meryl.
photos.
But
Yeah.
I went back and I took a bunch of entrepreneurs, and they were all women that we connected to groups of women in Africa that were doing various things as artisans. So one, group was painters. So I took an artist, and she was teaching them to paint, and she was providing product for them to finish painting, and that product was sold for many, many years at West Elms. So part of what we were doing
Whoa.
was creating sustainable projects. We had another group of jewelers who they were taking jewelry with them, raw goods, teaching these women how to finish these goods. And then it was this collaborative effort. And those women were having money that they never had to feed their villages and their families and their um, build their futures. So we were able to do those things. And when I was there, I was like, this is amazing, but this isn't it.
Really?
Mhm.
Because that it sounds
It was
fantastic. It was
amazing. It was
amazing. Like,
amazing. And I'll do it again
and I
a
was
million
just
times
thinking,
over.
I did just think, wow. And you didn't stick with that,
Yeah.
but it wasn't the thing.
It wasn't.
It
And
was, but it must have informed you. And again, it was the road.
yes, and my purpose in it was to take people there and make sustainable connections. My purpose wasn't to continue to do this over and over again. But I did think, oh my gosh, I've been waiting for years to do this. I'm going to have this aha moment. And what I realized is what I need to do is help other people find their
Mhm.
moments, find their purpose, because I saw the connections that I made with the entrepreneurs and the artisans. How do
Oh,
we do more of that? I need to be doing this work stateside.
yeah.
I need to be there helping to teach people or to tell people how to step into that calling. And I'll just wrap with this really quickly. Last night I was having dinner with some friends, and for whatever reason, I have a lot of doctors and lawyers in my friend group, and one of them is leaving tomorrow for her first medical mission. And she got inspired at our first Liberty Road event, and she's like, I'm doing incredible. I have a great career, and I'm a mom of, three, but what else is there?
It's her
Yeah,
inconvenient
it's
dream.
her yes, it's her
And it's
inconvenient
very
dream, a dream,
inconvenient.
as you like to say. But so all of those connections, that girl that was a junior who saw something, that's still being lived out, even though it's very different than the initial vision. But
Okay, so out of Africa.
yeah, out of Africa.
In Africa, I love it. So this was so this energetic breadcrumb
Hmm.
that came back and you thought, ah, this is the message of from my future self.
Yeah,
Really? You sent that message to yourself, right? And
yeah.
then you picked it up and you did something about it. Um, and I had a really, really good question and I forgot what it was.
It's okay. It's
Yeah, oh
okay.
dear.
Yeah, no, I think it was that gift that was embedded early on in me. I thought was a career choice, and
Mm,
it wasn't, at least not to date. But what it ended up revealing to me was that um, perhaps the work that I'm supposed to be doing is helping people step into what's next for them. And I got to see that very clearly in the entrepreneurs we took and connecting them with the artisans, that they were stepping into something that was creating real meaning for them. So it was this little window into what happens if I take this stateside and just try and create more opportunities for women to step into what's next for them, and creating impact
Hmm.
has always been
Important.
important to me. And I think um navel gazing has its place, but if it's not ultimately producing work where we're serving,
Hmm.
um, I think, jump ship.
Yes.
Let
Yeah.
we want to produce the kind, because I think that's where we feel fully connected and alive,
Hmm.
is when we're actually in service to others.
Well, I'd like to double click on that
Yeah.
because so it's funny that you call it navel gazing. I think that I call it lip service when you're like,
Hmm.
oh, this thing or that
Yeah.
thing, but having impact um, is so critical. So, what is it that you stand for as a human
Mm-hmm.
that is represented through the work that you're doing?
Mm-hmm.
So, when we were chatting earlier, I was sharing with you sort of what I like. These are things that are tenets that
Yeah.
I stand for, that equality and integrity
Yeah.
and inclusiveness are really important to me. That's why any ageism or any shame around someone growing older to me is something that we need to dismantle.
Yeah.
What are your whys that find this thread of, I even though I did this great thing, I don't want to be going back and forth to Africa. I want to help people bring their passion into impact.
Yeah.
What is it at the core, if you can distill it?
I think it's a combination of kind of my worldview and who I believe I am, like what I have to offer. It's some
Mhm.
sort of intersection uh, of those two. And I think um, my through line and my purpose through Liberty Road specifically is to, it's kind of threefold. It's to help women discover what's possible. It's to help women pursue their purpose, and it's to help women be intentional about their future choices.
Mm.
And so that is what I've learned up to now that I have to offer people. And then my role in that and through Liberty as a vehicle is to create those opportunities, whether it's at events, whether it's storytelling on the podcast, whether it's through these curated boxes that
Okay,
you
this
talk
is
about.
perfect.
Yeah.
I It's a great segue.
Yeah.
It is a great segue because I want to hear about the curated
Yeah.
boxes, but helping people, so you're giving them a road and you're
Yeah.
saying, be fearless on this road.
Yeah.
Oh, and it is a road of discovery, a road of
Yeah.
curiosity, not a road v- of epiphany,
Yeah.
maybe,
Yeah.
but a road of play too. Like, can you play with this? Can you have fun with it?
Yeah.
When I'm going to ask you this, we hadn't talked about it, so surprise.
Yeah.
When did you realize you were so powerful?
Hmm.
Unabashedly, like, whoa, I can do this.
Gosh, that's a good question. I think I've had little moments
Yeah.
of it. I've always been a hustler. Like, when I say that, I don't mean like hustling other
You mean you
people.
didn't
I
like go
mean,
fast?
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, like I'm like, yep, we can do that.
Yeah.
I'm super resourceful. I always find a way around no. Um, I can just get shit done. Can we cuss on this? Okay.
Yes. Oh
So,
gosh. Can we cuss?
so so that I knew, like, kind
Yeah.
of inherently was it that was part of my superpower, right? Where I became or felt moments of power was where I could use that superpower in service to others.
Hmm.
That everything finds itself as some intersection of who I am, who you are, who I believe we collectively are, and how we serve.
Yeah.
And so my most powerful moments are when who I am is brought to the table in service of others.
I completely agree with
Mm,
you. And I feel my most powerful then too when it isn't that I'm necessarily a voice for the voiceless, but I've created a path for those who perhaps don't have a voice to use their voice.
yeah,
Because you don't want to do anything for anyone.
yeah,
That is not theirs. That's a disservice. The service is
yeah,
to say, You take the floor.
yeah.
You are the one." And
By the way, that was a great lesson learned both in prepping to go to Africa and in going to Africa. Save the savior's complex for somebody else. This is not our job. Like, we're here to partner with these people. And those same lessons that I learned there, I bring here. I'm not here to give you any words of wisdom, whether it's from the stage at our event or from the podcast or anything that we do. I'm here to make sure that you are seen and heard and can see and hear yourself.
Mhm,
Like,
mhm,
that's where, and you and I had talked earlier about great questions, like how great questions can
mhm,
truly move mountains.
mhm,
We just need to give people the questions to
mhm.
ask and the space. Um,
I do think question asking is a skill,
yes.
and that it reframes how one approaches a problem if the question is posed with generosity and with
Oh,
lack of judgment.
that's a really great distinction.
You know,
Yeah.
because if we ask a question that is leading,
Hmm.
and we often do.
Yeah.
Oh, that was great, wasn't it? Well,
Yeah.
I guess there's either yes
Only
or
one answer to that. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
but or how did you feel that was, or how did that land with you? That gives the person an ability to really reflect on how they feel versus what we
Yeah.
think we want to project on them. So, one of the premises that we spoke about earlier that really aligns with what you've discussed
Yeah.
is the theory of inconvenient dreams.
Hmm.
And although you found a spark of your purpose going to Africa and realizing, oof, this fits a little of what I need, but it
Yeah.
isn't quite the
Yeah.
thing that after our years of ego and acquisition, we step into that middle third, that second prime, that moment where we're like, gosh, what used to fill my bucket doesn't do
Hmm.
it. And
Hmm.
it is such a subtle shift.
Hmm.
And it's sort of like all of a sudden that foundation doesn't work anymore. Why? I don't know. It just something has shifted. I'm no longer trying to compare myself to other people or feel that I have FOMO in the same way I did
Yeah.
when I was younger and all of these things. And yet I have a void and I'm looking and I'm searching. And that's when we have this additional growth. And I think our inconvenient dreams are reminding us of who we maybe dreamed of being when we were younger,
Mhm.
but we were acquiring and
Mhm.
learning and gathering information and discovering who we were and who we wanted to be and didn't want to be. And a lot of that is just self-discovery and all such a fun time. And then to say to yourself, I want to do this. But what makes it work is going back to what you said, it has to serve other
Mhm.
people. And that is I truly believe an intrinsic human need
Mhm.
is to matter, is to matter to society. And you can't matter if you aren't supporting more than yourself.
Mhm.
I mean, I suppose you could I mean, you matter. I don't mean that
Yeah.
in like I was
Yeah.
really
No,
happy.
we
You know
are
what I'm
worthy
saying?
and we are whole and
Yeah.
all those
Thank you.
things. I hear
Just
you.
dug a
But
hole there.
I think that what you're talking about is when we feel
Most full.
most full is
Most
when
full.
it matters to other people, when we
Yeah.
are in service to others.
Well, and we are born vulnerable.
Yeah.
We are born to not sustain life without each other.
Yeah.
And that, although it looks to be that we can sustain ourselves without each other,
Yeah.
the need for connection and true connection and mattering and purpose becomes more important, more critical, and more needed as humans as we get into this fabulous space where we have the abundance of time, wisdom, knowledge, and drive. Really, if you can find the thing, you
Mhm.
have more energy than you've ever had,
Yeah.
which is crazy, although I am sleepy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Well,
I'm like I'm
that's
energized
something
and
else.
sleepy
Yeah.
at the same
Yeah.
time. It's like I'm exhausted and excited.
Yeah.
And
I've actually said that 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 finding that purpose and being in service in that purpose is the highest form of self-care.
Yeah.
that when we are actually, forget about the bubble bath, and I mean, take
Yeah.
your bubble bath, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the kind of self-care where we feel realized. We feel like this is why I'm
Hmm.
here. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And when you have it, even for a moment,
Hmm.
you are so literally full of yourself. If we could
Yes.
all
Full of,
be
yes.
full of ourselves.
Well, and what you're saying is, and the hierarchy of needs, you're
Yeah.
you're in this
Yeah.
transcendence space where you are actually high on your own endorphins. And in fact, it's like we have a little opioid pathway in our body, and our neurotransmitters, when we're in purpose, release them.
Oh my God.
And so
I was just saying to somebody who's doing the science around purpose, like how purpose actually, that's amazing.
yeah, yeah. And even
Is that
even
going to be in your book?
it's in my book,
Okay,
and
great.
it's like right now we're very in flow because our mirror neurons are just reflecting
Mm,
biochemically back and forth the knowledge that we believe collectively,
mm.
and that is happening. And
Which is
so,
not happening in the world. So it's nice when
well,
it can
right,
happen in these little
in these
bubbles,
little
in these
bubbles,
moments.
but it's the what I love about what you're doing, and I want to get into the nitty gritty
Yeah.
of when someone goes to one of your events and these moments where people are having, in fact, deep conversations about what is possible, is that it is for everyone to do it in their own way.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
no one's, as you said, is the same.
Yeah.
And so there is no competition, there's only support, and really I feel it is a societal imperative for women to show up in their power.
Yes.
I feel it is our job, our duty, and the world needs that
When I
right
get
now.
soapboxy, I say that
Yeah.
if we're not, first of all, I believe that women in this age group can heal the world of most of what's wrong with it.
Yes.
Just go
Like,
ahead and say that.
I think women should be leading.
Yes.
And
Yes.
one thing I
In
often say
all
in
areas.
all
In
areas,
all
but
areas.
women generally don't want to kill each other's children.
Yeah.
And I feel like just in peace and conflict, when I
Yes.
go back to the work that the Nobel Women's
Yeah.
Initiative, what they work on is they work in really tough areas where there is a lot of civil conflict. There's just incredible corruption and all of that. And the women that get in there and make the difference and make the
Yeah.
change is because they are are really in it to negotiate peace.
Yeah. Well,
Peace
they
is
don't see
important.
humanity as collateral. They,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
one's expendable.
Yeah.
Everyone's
Yeah.
worthy, everyone's worthy of saving.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, building on that, yes, I believe that women who are in this season of life, um, and look, I have a daughter, and the lovely women who are filming this right now are coming into this space eventually where everything they've learned and what you were talking about, what did you say? The ego and the
oh, ego and acquisition.
ego and acquisition, those years are vital, and then when we emerge from that, we can be open to so much else. And we've learned so much. Every battle wound, every scar, every heartache has taught us more about what the world
Hmm.
needs and where the world is broken and needs deep healing. So I believe that helping women through the work you're doing, through the work I'm doing, through the work so many women are doing in the sort of midlife space is essential to what the world needs right now.
Yes.
Um, so, having said that, I want to make this really important distinction. What we're talking about at Liberty Road, what I'm talking about, is not necessarily work for pay, like change your career.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily redefine a new career. It might be that the work that you're doing, you are lucky enough to find that that is at the intersection of where you feel your purpose or your
Right.
calling. For some people, like my friend who's leaving for this medical mission, it's this trip.
Hmm.
And this may be the beginning of more that she's going to do,
Hmm.
but it's independent of her career. Now, her career is allowing for her to do this.
Hmm.
For other women, it might be, I heard a lovely story of a woman who started growing flowers from seeds and eventually gave birth independent of the seed growing. or the flower growing independently at a later time, gave birth to a Downs baby.
Mm.
The flowers from the garden are cut, and she sells those at local stores in her local little shops in her city, and they fund goodie bags that go to other families who have children
Mm.
with Downs. This hobby, this little passion project that she created, supported her in her uncovering of what does it mean to be the mother of a child with Downs, and then gave her what she needed, like practically the
Mhm.
financial support to help give the information she learned to other
Mhm.
families.
Yeah.
So and that's independent of the work she was doing as a career, right?
Right. I think
So
that's a really important distinction is that the work that you're doing can't it this isn't like a redoing your resume
no, no,
situation. This is finding so much of purpose and thriving, and and doing it through what you stand for, because she obviously stood for a level of nurturing and
yeah,
support,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, then no, that's great. You're pointing out something that I didn't see initially in the story, but even in her cultivating that garden and nurturing that garden, there was something more about
Yeah.
who she was as a person. That nurturing was like part of what gave her joy. And
Right.
now she was not just nurturing flowers, she was nurturing other people. Africa was not just about nurturing these women in Africa, it was nurturing the women who were going to
Yeah.
connect with them, who were going to find their purpose in that work. Um yeah, yeah.
It's really, really cool. So before we get deep into the Liberty Road stuff, what I want to point out something as you mentioned, and I
Mhm.
think this is really critical, that your friend who's going on her mission,
Yeah.
that she's doing work that is it's filling her bucket.
Mhm.
It's actually protecting her from burnout,
Mhm.
and so many women are burnt out, and finding so it's not that she's not tired, but she
Yeah.
needs to refuel in her gift, in her giving, in her purpose area. So I think that that's an important thing that we all need to remember,
Yeah.
is that doing something that aligns with your purpose, it's protective of burnout. It actually is neurologically protective. It's biologically protective, and in fact improves the epigenetics. So the genetics that we all have, that we're trying to, through lifestyle, support the positive genes.
Mhm.
Being in purpose is really, really good physiologically.
Mm.
So that is another message on top of adding
Yeah.
to the
That
work.
supports this idea that I just said about, I believe it's a high form of self-care. You're actually putting the
Yes.
science to that. So once again, I'm finding you're filling in the gap, the science gap that I had, but I appreciate
Oh,
hearing that
it's my
because it
pleasure.
makes sense. It resonates.
Yes, it's sort of like Captain Obvious, but then to
Yes.
say it scientifically, you have to prove
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
right? And so it's
Yeah.
something that sort of like when we talk about gut health, when you say, well, trust your gut, the reason you say trust your gut is because there's many neurons in your gut as there are in your brain, and they develop at the same time.
Yeah.
And there's a real reason you say it. But, so a lot of the wisdom is there, but
Yeah.
there is science to back it up.
Yeah,
So,
and I love the finding of new applications for the science,
yeah,
in the way that we're
working.
viewing the importance of spending time on this intentional
Mhm.
practice of searching for purpose, or in service of being in service of
Right.
others in that.
So tell us about the events
Yeah,
that so people can
yeah,
experience them. I
yeah.
was so lucky to experience it, and it's not only delicious, beautiful, fun, fabulous, but with such put together with such care and
Mm.
love and thought. Tell us about all the events that you do, and then these special curated boxes.
Yeah, thanks for the question. So the intention when I launched was to have one large scale event, um, where we could gather women who needed to hear from different voices in
So one a
three
year.
areas. One a year for now, one a year. It's in Los Angeles. The idea is to grow that to ultimately be something akin to a festival, that it's multi day, and that it's very large in scale, and that women can
Can
curate.
we burn things? Can we?
Well, I'll create a space just for you. And to curate their own kind of adventure in three categories. So we want to focus on vocation.
Mhm,
And when I say vocation, I'm not talking about paid for work or career, like we said earlier. It's talking about this idea of moving into that purpose,
mhm.
right? So a series of experts, a series of books, all sorts of things that you can learn, and breakout sessions that are in the vocation sort of area. You could be one of our experts
Mhm,
um, in that category. And then the second category is health and wellness, because while I don't focus a lot on menopause or on other issues around women's health and wellness at this age, I know lots of people who do. I've interviewed them on the podcast. We've had them as experts at the events. It's essential. We can't be talking
essential.
about our purpose when we can't think straight, when we're not sleeping well, when we're angry all the time, because those are things that are coming up hormonally, and we're not educated enough to know where is all this coming from? What is
Mhm,
this? What is all this rage inside of me? And so it's important for us to address
mhm.
our menopausal health, but then our the rest of our body, right? And whether it's our sexual health, whether it's we've got pelvic floor issues, whatever it is that's going on with us. So wellness and health play a role. So that's another category where we would have experts and books and all sorts of things where you can engage in breakout sessions and pick up a book at one of our little pop-up uh, bookstores. And then the last is what we call lifestyle. And there are very specific things that we step into in our middle third that are very unique, whether it's sandwich generation issues. How do I care for my children and my
Mhm,
parents? Relationships. People have been in relationships now for some time, and those relationships are breaking down for many of us. Now, is it that everyone needs to get a divorce in midlife? I don't think so. I heard something beautiful from Esther Perel, and she said it's about reinventing that relationship. So she said, I've been married three different times to the same man, which
mm.
I thought was really beautiful. Um, and and so I think it's, helping women figure out, where am I in life, in this life stage, financial security, whatever it is. So we want to have experts that can address those things. So our events have these experts. I interview many of them from the main stage, or they meet
Mhm,
in small groups like you did last year.
mhm.
You were one of our experts. And you meet in small groups with 25 women. We break everybody out. And the idea there is we want to create something very dynamic. I don't want a series of just standalone speakers who are talking at us.
Mhm.
Um, when you get to this stage of life, you have your own wisdom that you're bringing to the table. So I
Yeah.
want people to be able to connect with those experts. And then what you talked about, the delicious food and the beauty that's in the day, that's because we want women to walk in. This is a demographic who usually are creating beauty for others. We want to create that for them. We want them to feel seen and heard and celebrated in that day. So the idea is the LA event will continue to grow to be this larger scale event over many days. And then we're creating these smaller events. I just did one in New York a couple of months ago. It was just a meetup with a lot of women that were in the age. Some of them are founders creating resources and in service to this demographic, and others were just women who wanted to come and learn from them. You've been to one of our dinners. We do these small dinners. We did four of them last summer as sort of a, let's see if we can connect people in a smaller way. So we will continue to do our smaller scale events to grow our community.
Curated boxes.
So the curated boxes. So this is something we just launched. The first ones will come out in May, and it's a subscription box. It's very
Oh my
simply.
gosh, I was thinking like we go in a box.
No. Hmm.
Like
Maybe
we're
that's an event
like,
at our
do you know we're
at
in
our
a
event.
box and
No,
something
no,
happens? I don't know, a glitter bomb goes off. Okay.
I want you to keep
Okay.
going to
Yeah.
that and report back to me what you come up with.
Coming
No,
out looking like a troll with
these are
glitter everywhere.
not exactly. These are 4 curated boxes that we're creating over the course of the year. It's good to
Oh,
know that
I said boxes for people and you said yes. And I was like, oh,
oh,
wow,
no,
they're
I
giant.
meant,
Yeah.
like, people that can actually enjoy the boxes, but it's good to know, right? What I have to
I
clarify. No, these are boxes that you open
They
with
come
stuff
in the
in them
mail.
for
Okay.
people.
Yay. Oh,
And
sign me up.
yeah,
I
so
can't
the
wait.
idea was essentially between events, because we only do this one large scale
Yes.
event and then we're doing these smaller events really to grow community. But I wanted to connect the dots for
Mm,
people. And because I'm working with these brands to bring them into the big event, to have them work with us, um, whether it's through our dinner series or whatever, I started to identify some brands I really loved. I loved what they were all about. I
mhm,
think you were there at the dinner where Annie Jackson, the CEO of Credo,
mhm.
spoke. She's phenomenal.
By the way, I have been buying the
Iris and Romeo.
Iris and Romeo.
Yeah.
Per I've given it to everyone.
Yes.
I can't be without it.
Yes.
It is like my
Okay.
favorite spray ever, so thank you. I'm addicted.
This is okay. This is case in point.
Yeah.
So I kept hearing that. So we were bringing different brands to things, had little goodie bags at our various events. And I would hear things like, oh my gosh, that neck roller, amazing. That Iris and Romeo mascara, depending on what I was hawking at the moment, amazing. Uh, and realize that, oh, we're connecting the dots very practically
Mhm.
with what women in this demographic need. And because of the work that I had done working with entrepreneurs, I understand how hard it is to get into the hands of your
Of the
target
customer.
market.
Right.
So I started to have conversations with these brands saying, how do we take what we've done at our events and put it in a box?
Well, and little boxes of beauty and joy.
Yes,
I
yes.
mean, I'm so
And it's
excited.
beyond that. So we get to there's even a digital component to the box. So for example, we had interviewed Bonnie Wan, and she's the author of The Life Brief. And then Bonnie came into let me just say really quickly, we had had a membership that we had launched. It was in beta. We had 103 people that were participating in this. I said, okay, no more. Let's just study this group. And we gave them a welcome box. We gave them once a month access to an expert that we would have in a Zoom. We gave them once a month book club that we would meet in a Zoom, and discounts to our event and other events that were happening with our partners, with our
Mhm.
brand partners. When I went back and studied that group and said, what do you love most? They said, we loved the welcome box and we loved all the discounts and the resources you were connecting us with. And I said, great. That's what we're going to do. So Bonnie can now put a book, excuse me, in the box. She can also offer a discount to herself as
Mm.
an expert, or to one of her courses to our community. So there's fun stuff you'll get in the
That's
box,
so
but there's
fun.
also access to these experts. So the box was an outgrowth of how do we take the magic of the day and put it in a box? And how do I introduce you to so many of the amazing things that I get to access? Because brands are sending me stuff all the
Yes.
time. I'm trying cool supplements, I'm trying cool hair oils, I'm
Mhm.
trying all these cool things. So now I'm saying to them, hey, hold up. If you want to send it to me, I need 200 of those.
Right.
And
That is
they're
so
saying, okay,
fun. Okay.
we'll do it. We want to be in the hands of your user. So you can subscribe and get it once a quarter, or you can just buy
Well,
one
I'm gonna
box at a
sign up
time.
right
I
away.
know you
I'm so
should. You should. Yeah.
excited. That is
And
really
Iris and Romeo and Credo are both going to be in this next
yeah.
box.
And Iris and Romeo, I don't know, remember what it's called, like finishing spray
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah.
It's just, I'll put the link in the show notes. It's
It's
incredible.
incredible. Their new cocoon skin product, their
I use their lip gloss. It was just
lip
a
gloss,
lovely,
yes, their weekend skin product. They are and she's the
And
founder.
it's all clean beauty,
It's
which is
clean,
great.
and she's very much focused on this demographic as well.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
really wonderful.
Yeah. So
Well,
that's the boxes.
you are doing such incredible work,
Thank
and
you.
I'm so happy to be part of it, to be witnessing it, to see it, and to learn from it. So thank you. For our listeners, how do they get in touch with the beautiful Netta and your work and Liberty Road?
Thank you. Thanks for an opportunity to share that. Liberty-road.com is our website. This is Liberty Road on Instagram. DM me. I answer all the DMs
You're
myself.
really good at that. I'm a
Oh,
little slower, so I
oh no,
appreciate you.
I love it. It's a great way for us to know what the community wants and how we can better show up for people. So those are the ways to get a hold of us. And please listen to our podcast as well, which you will
Yes,
be a guest on when
yes.
your book comes out. But that's Liberty Road with Netta Jones.
That's
Yeah.
wonderful. Well, I'm so grateful. And to all of our viewers and listeners, thank you so much. And I can't wait to spend more time with you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Gretchen.
Yeah,
Thanks for
so good
having
to
me
see.
on the show. I
Absolutely.
appreciate it so
Yeah,
much.
it was really fun. Thank you so much for joining us on the journey of enlightened aging and creating the second prime of your dreams. Be sure to lead with purpose and intention and show the world that your second prime is kick ass.